Then she was saying, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? And then she proceeded to say that she had a cracked taillight.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everybody? Wanted to talk to you today about Jennifer McCabe and what was... Hold on one moment, please. What was an incredible cross-examination over 2 days. Everybody thought, oh, wow, it was going to be like some incredible own by the defense. She was going to admit this. She was going to admit that. And it turned out to be an absolute cross-examination, turned out to be an examination really for the Commonwealth. I like to call her Brave McCabe. She was not going to be intimidated. And in came all the information once again about the campaign of terror that Karen Reed has spearheaded for the past year or more. And how terrifying it was. And we heard in detail today about it. Absolutely terrifying. So for all these people, I mean, it's basically getting to be Groundhog Day with the Free Karen Readers. It's like no matter who testifies, we're hearing they committed perjury. We can't wait till they get arrested and they really are held responsible for what they did. You know, meanwhile, we've heard like 10 people saying Karen Reed said she did it. I hit him. This is all my fault. Then we saw the cracked tail light. Then we saw exactly how it went down, where she collected her friends. She put on this act, this big hysterical act, took her friends to the scene, pranced around, pretended to be half crazy. I mean, went to Jennifer McCabe and Matt McCabe's house like Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire. Stella, Jen. They're thinking, they both testified, they think like, this is a crazy person. Who is this? Who is this at our lawn in the early morning hours? This is a crazy person. So I wanted to look at some of yesterday's examination. Let me cue it up with Jennifer McCabe. And it was cross-examination. It was incredibly damaging for Karen Reed. And there was a rumor going around that she's already in negotiations for a deal, but there's no deal being offered to Karen Reed at this point, I wouldn't think, if I had to guess. No one's going to offer her a deal. I mean, the defense has so far, I mean, they haven't put on they haven't put on their defense. But it's really interesting. I'm getting a lot of comments like, how dare you have an opinion about this case having read the filings and watched the Commonwealth's presentation without hearing the defenses. But I've, and listening, of course, I think they're forgetting, and listening, of course, to the defense and the hearings, their filings. How dare I have an opinion? But isn't it funny? No one on the Free Karen Reed side ever gets that criticism. Like, hey, let's all wait till it's over. Hey, Free Karen Reed people, let's cool down. How can you have an opinion? How can you say innocent? We haven't seen the whole trial. It only seems to go one way, to this side. And I have no trouble with people having an opposite opinion. I'm bewildered by it. I'm not talking about the people spearheading the campaign or fully invested in the campaign. I'm talking about the very casual watchers who have an opinion of innocence. I don't know what they're basing it on. What's so convincing? Because so far, I haven't really seen any really devastating cross-examinations. Because really, when you see a really devastating cross-examination, what it does is just totally nullifies everything that they said in direct. Like, I can discount everything that was said in direct. This person's testimony, thrown out, basically. That's how that works. But I haven't seen anything like that. And Carrie Roberts today, there's no trial no trial tomorrow, and no trial Friday is what I'm hearing. If I may be hearing wrong, and nothing next week is what people are telling me. Let me know if I have that incorrect. That if that information is incorrect. This is just me asking around and asking other people what they're hearing, and that the judge is considering doing full days after this. But let's take a look at what I'm calling Brave McCabe. No, I Won't Back Down. That song came to mind. Tom Petty. And her testimony yesterday, it was a shocker, because I think this is the testimony everybody was nervous about, at least on this side of the fence. We'd heard that they might have some kind of bombshell for her. They had been really setting her up since opening statements to be the fall woman. Let's put it that way. And that's not what happened. She was not backing down.
Did anyone happen to see, hear?
You didn't say that.
Not exactly those words.
What exactly were the words that you used?
I said, why don't you come with me?
And you even waited outside in what was ultimately freezing cold temperatures for the street, correct?
Yes.
If you could take a look, Your Honor, with court's permission, Exhibit 53, I'd like to play about maybe a 15-second clip from that.
Okay.
Actually, it's a little bit longer than that. It may be a minute. Can we pause this, Mr. Biggs? For the record, Your Honor, this is about runtime 12:10 and 17 seconds or so. If you could move that up, Mr. Biggs, to 12:10 and about 45 seconds. That's close enough. Ms. McCabe, do you recognize what's depicted in this portion of the video?
I see a car. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know what that thing on the white thing is.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it. Let's see if you recognize any of this. Pause, please. Oh, that's a terrible place to pause. A little further. It's also not super clear. Can you see a person in that video?
From where I'm sitting now.
It's a little tough.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and play it forward. Well, actually, we enhance that just a little bit. Did you see a person in the background right there?
Honestly, I can't make out what that is.
Let's play it forward and see if this helps. Okay, now do you see a person?
Yes,
The lighting is terrible. I apologize. Not my video. Do you know who that person is?
I don't know.
That's you, isn't it?
I can't tell from that picture if that's me.
Okay, let's maybe play it a little bit further forward. Awesome. Now, with the flag out of the way, do you recognize anybody in the foreground down at the bottom right?
That looks to be John.
Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes,
Do you see someone to his right?
I do. Yes.
And who is that person?
I cannot make it out in the photo.
Okay, let's go ahead and play it forward. And pause. You see?
So she's not. So already you get the sense that she's not committing to anything or going down any kind of alleyways where there might be some kind of trap door at the end of it. And Mira Hardy says Karen Reed is a killjoy. Poor John O'Keefe and kids, babysitter, #babysitter with benefits. So, of course, referring to testimony that she felt like she was a babysitter with benefits. And she wanted John O'Keefe. It seems like it's coming out in the testimony is that she wanted John O'Keefe all to herself.
The person with the sort of white shoes just above the car.
Yes.
Does that appear to be you?
I can't make that out that it's me, but I know I was there and I know I spoke with them.
Okay, so you do recall walking outside and sort of waiting and hovering in about that area, correct?
I was talking with them.
Okay. Does it appear that you're talking with them in
No.
this frame?
That looks like they've walked away.
Right. As a matter of fact, it looked like they walked away without talking to you outside, correct?
Well, do you have video of moments before that when I was standing talking to them?
Well, see, this is the point where I get to ask the questions and you get to answer. So I'm
Okay.
asking you, do you see yourself standing in the parking lot after John and the person to his right had walked away?
Yes.
Okay. Let's play it for just a few more seconds.
I get to ask the questions based on my on edited footage, pieces of reports with no context. I basically get to trick, you hear lawyers say that a lot. I get to ask the questions. But in that, you hear a little bit of laughter. I really was curious who was laughing in the courtroom. Was that from the Reed side? If I had to guess, was that from the jury? Because the way he set her up as an enemy, that we're not friends. I'm here to expose you. And he basically has had this attitude with every single witness. I don't think has worked in Karen Reed's favor. What concerns me is if they really are off for a week next week, there lets the campaign. If any of these jurors start going through social media, going through Twitter, wanting to catch up on Facebook and reading all this Free Karen Reed stuff, get approached by Free Karen Reed people. There's been rumors that they want to go and protest in front of jurors, which to me means that they think that some of these Free Karen Reed people have to know that it's not going well for them in court. And what these campaigns do, meaning innocence fraud campaigns do, is meaning it doesn't really matter what happened in court or what happens in court. The campaign is all that matters, is how it looks, how the press makes it look, and how they make it look like that the entire public is behind Karen Read. As long as they make it look like we're in the majority of the people, you know, we are social animals by nature. We run with the herd. We want to be in the in crowd amongst the majority. So that's the most important thing for this campaign, is to make it look like most people support Karen Read, and that most people support Karen Read because that's what the evidence shows. So it doesn't matter so much what goes on in court. The manipulation is to have that manipulation seep into our court system. So, you know, it's really interesting when people talk to me about the Innocence Project and what great work they do. And you ask them, have you read the court transcripts of the cases that they represent? And sometimes these are people who are very involved with the Innocence Project, and they're totally unfamiliar with the facts of the cases that they represent. And they just make it sound like they're doing good work. So that makes it sound like all you have to do is make it sort of, it's all about the surface, making it look as if. And isn't that the definition of fraud? Making something look like something else, right? So making someone who's really guilty look like they're innocent, someone who's really a shyster look like they're an upstanding citizen.
Pause. And what do you appear to be doing at that point?
Walking to my car.
Okay, so you turned around and left after Mr. O'Keefe and the person to his right walked away, correct?
Correct.
As you sit here, even though the video leaves a little to be desired, you know that John O'Keefe left with Karen, correct?
Yes,
So the person to his right, the more petite person with the long hair, that would be Karen.
I would assume.
Okay, so you waited out in the parking lot for a few minutes after you said or joked, "You're coming with me," or something like that, correct?
I was speaking to them, and then I walked to my car.
You didn't say to Mr. O'Keefe, "You're coming with me." You said to Karen Read, "You're coming with me," or something to that effect, correct?
Mr. O'Keefe was not outside when I said to Karen, "You're coming with me." I told Karen, "You're coming with me," because John was still in the bar with Matt.
So you asked Karen to come with you in your car
Yes,
to give her a ride,
yes,
separate from John O'Keefe.
yes. I figured he could go with Matt because they were still in the bar.
Was there a reason?
I love how they're trying to make Jennifer McCabe look like a conspirator. Like she's come with me. We have a mass crime to commit at our house. Come on. I wanted to separate them and get them alone, or even create trouble between the two. But it's just Jennifer McCabe came prepared, and her whole attitude is just like,
"Don't f with me, fellas! This ain't my first time at the rodeo."
Exactly. She's not having any of it. Thank you, Joan. She's not having any of this from I used to call him Distraction Jackson, but now I think I just call him No Traction Jackson. This is a new name because he got nowhere with this cross. He should have just sat down, like I always say, about halfway through. made 0 points. But for the, maybe it's not really for us. Maybe this is really for the free Karen Reed people. So they go, oh, guys, come on. She lied. She lied. Look, she's lying. She's committing perjury. She knows what she did. She's protecting all the other conspirators, all the other people who like to just on their off time. What do they like to do as a hobby? They just like to commit murder with other people as a hobby when they're not teaching 5th grade.
Why you wanted to separate Miss Reed from Mr. O'Keefe at that moment?
No,
Why not just walk to your car with Matt and go where you're going to go?
Matt was still inside.
So you thought it was important enough to make the statement, "You're coming with me," or something to that effect, to my client, to separate her from John O'Keefe, even though your testimony is John O'Keefe was just inside the bar.
Objection.
Sustained as to that form. Ask it differently.
Sure. Did you believe it was important at that point to ask Miss Reed to come with you, which would separate her from John O'Keefe?
There was never any idea of separating them.
Except for the fact the idea was, you're coming with me, not you two are coming with me, correct?
Incorrect.
By definition, if she came with you, you'd be separating her from John, wouldn't you?
We were standing outside
My question
talking.
could be answered yes or no. By definition, your statement to her, "You come with me," would separate her from John, wouldn't it?
It would not, because we were all going back to Fairview Road.
But not at the same time, ma'am, correct? Your idea is to bring Karen with you, separate and apart from John.
We were waiting for John to come out, and I said, "Why don't you just come with me?" It was innocent.
I'm not asking for your explanation. You'll get to that with Mr. Loudon. I'm asking for a yes or no question, or yes or no answer. By definition, your invitation would separate Karen from John, would it not?
Objection.
Wide open.
Sustained. Move on.
Would it or would it not separate John and Karen for the ride over?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, when you arrived at Fairview, some folks were already there, correct?
Yes.
Who was already there?
Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, and Brian Albert Jr.
And then you arrived, as we saw, you walked through the parking lot, got in your car, you arrived.
The regular the Canton killer crew. We like to get together. We like to lure people after hours and get them together and then throw them out into the cold. When we're not working at a car dealership or teaching 5th grade or being a detective. That's what we like to do. We like to commit crimes in the most amateurish and worst way possible. So what Alan Jackson does with his crosses is he sets up his crosses for yes or no answers only. And he's not prepared for any kind of context or any kind of extra information added. He gets irritated. And this is not unusual. Most lawyers want yes or no answers, but he's not prepared when the judge lets Jennifer McCabe give richer, longer, fuller answers. He's not ready for it. And I thought he wasn't very good at thinking on his feet. Then he prepares these cross-examinations by what's sort of, I consider them very bullying, and he's ready to bully people into yes and no answers and bully them into a corner. And he's not very good at improvisation when that doesn't work or when the judge okays a longer, like I said, richer answer.
I presume with your husband, Matt McCabe.
Yes, correct.
I want to ask a question about Mr. Higgins.
Mhm.
You testified on Friday that you saw his vehicle when you got to the scene, correct?
Yes.
And you said that it was pulled up a little bit in front of the mailbox, correct?
Yes.
Can we have exhibit 66 with the court's permission, please?
Okay.
This is a digital model of the location. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
There appear to be a relative scale model of 34 Fairview.
Yes.
This would be the front door, correct?
Yes.
And where's the mailbox? If you can point to it with the laser pointer. Okay, so you're pointing to an area that just.
So this weird picture that was done by Microdots. It works for the defense, and it's made in a way that's made to make and it does make the front lawn look a lot smaller, narrower than it is. So the point is to say, for the jury to look at this picture and say, oh, well, why didn't anyone see John O'Keefe besides Julie Nagel that night? And why didn't Julie Nagel see anything more than a blob, which she could distinguish as a blob? Well, because it was a nor'easter, for one. And no, the lawn doesn't look like that. So it's an odd picture. I was surprised that the judge let that in. It's another sleazy, in my opinion, sleazy defense tactic. Latin Rican says, Karen asked the firefighter how long someone can survive in the snow without a jacket. Also, while requesting Jennifer to type that question in her phone, it means that was after John was found. Nice to see Jen vindicated. Wasn't it nice, Latin Rican, to see Jen vindicated? And this was, at least for me, this was the cross-examination I was most worried about. Just from David Yannetti's opening statement, they were making her out to be the devil. And you know that they have this Facebook defense where they have a private investigator dig up, any kind of dirt, your entire life story, anything that you've ever done in your entire life, every vacation you've taken, everyone you're friends with. And I was thinking about Lally. Has nothing been dug up about Lally? He must live the most straight and narrow life. That nothing. They have dug up nothing on him. And not even any, they haven't even tried to manipulate any kind of picture with him to make it look like anything nefarious. So that's interesting. So I'm always wondering why Lally doesn't have co-counsel. He hasn't been involved in any scandals that we know of. And the longer this trial is going on, the more I think he's doing a really brilliant job. And he's getting zero appreciation. And he's like a one-man band up there holding really whipping the butt of a really, really expensive, well-staffed defense team. Thanks, Latin Rican. So, and Jennifer McCabe too. I think the best that they can get is, pictures of her with her friends. I mean, come on.
Just in front of a car that's in the driveway, correct?
Yes.
And then the driveway is to the right.
Yes.
And then along this line is the front lawn area and property line of 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that Jeep was just a little bit in front of the mailbox, meaning about there, correct?
Yes.
And the rear end of that Jeep would be butting up against the driveway,
Yes.
or at least the line of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
That's quite a bit of detail about where that Jeep was. Would you agree?
No, because I drove down the street and I took a left into the driveway and there was a Jeep there.
Okay. What I'm asking is, you didn't just say, your memory was not just somewhere in front of a house. It's literally right in front of the mailbox, the front end of it, adjoining the line of the driveway, correct?
Yes,
That detail obviously stuck out in your mind.
it did because I was wondering whose Jeep it was.
Did you discuss that detail with your husband at any point?
Not sure.
You're not sure? You might have.
I'm not sure if I said whose Jeep is that.
No, I don't mean then. I mean between then and now, have you and Mr. McCabe ever discussed where that Jeep was, or your memories of where that Jeep was?
Possibly.
You're aware that he put the Jeep in the exact same place that you did.
Objection.
Are you aware of that?
I am. Oh, wait. No. Excuse me. Repeat the question.
I love when even she says, even when she agrees, she's like, yeah, I was wondering whose Jeep it was. Even her tone is like, yeah, I was. The tone betrays her disbelief in how stupid and ridiculous this line of questioning is, and how bizarre and fraudulent the defense is. And I'm sure the jury couldn't miss it. Hey, lovely Sphinx, thanks for becoming a member. Kathy Chapin, thanks. So all the EMT and doctors, ambulance drivers, and phlebotomists, all the people in the house and officers were all in on this nonsense. It's ridiculous. Well, Kathy, what you're not considering is that Canton, there's not a lot to do in Canton. They have to, start a fight club, a fight club on their off time. It's not quite exactly stimulating enough, Canton. If Karen Reed gets off on this nonsense, I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I can understand if there's some kind of great defense witnesses or something, but if it keeps going on like this and the jury votes to acquit, I'm going to have a crisis of faith or something. I don't know. Maybe spontaneously combust. I'm not sure what. I will be so mesmerized, amazed, confused, puzzled if this defense works. I mean, I get, if it's fair. I mean, I get, the reason why they put on these kind of innocence fraud campaigns is because they work. But if we hear from the jurors and they seem honest and they're like, well, yeah, we had to think that this was some kind of massive conspiracy between Jen McCabe. Really? We just thought they were all committing perjury, all these witnesses, because they didn't say word for word what was in these reports. I mean, come on. And if they did say word for word what was in these reports, they would say, look, see, they all planned their story. It's word for word, the reports. But what really amazes me is listening to other creators go, we've never seen anything like this. This is a one-off. Really? Did you happen to miss Rodney Reed's campaign still going on? Did you happen to miss Julius Jones's campaign? Did you happen to miss Adnan Syed and Sarah Koenig, what she created with Serial, where they went from person to person, committing, blaming them for what Adnan Syed was convicted of killing Heyman Lee. First, they went from Jay, the co-conspirator, to Heyman Lee's current boyfriend at the time that Adnan Syed took her life. And he's walking around. By the way, just an update, Adnan Syed is teaching people at Georgetown with another formerly convicted killer, Marty Tankleff. There's another campaign for you. Did you happen to miss any of those innocence fraud campaigns?
You're aware that he puts the Jeep in the exact same spot you just put the Jeep, right in front of that mailbox, right?
I know he knows where the Jeep was. I'm not aware what he said in here.
Does he know where the Jeep was because you told him what to say about the Jeep?
Absolutely not. It's because we drove together in the car and I asked. I possibly could have asked.
One at a time, please,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your words. I thought you.
That's okay. You can continue.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I don't think we got your answer, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Madam Court Reporter was asking for your answer.
Can you repeat your answer?
To the question of did he know where the Jeep was?
Whether or not you told him where the Jeep was.
I did not need to tell Matt where the Jeep was. He knew because we were in the car together.
But you two discussed it.
When are you asking?
At any time between January 29th and today.
I'm sure we have, yes.
You were also interviewed by Trooper Proctor on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And you were asked a series of open-ended questions. What did you see and where did you see it, correct?
Yes.
Have we put any words in your mouth?
No.
They told you what to say at that time.
No.
And you told Trooper Proctor that when you arrived at the scene, after you got there, you, quote, first observed the vehicle, meaning Miss Reed's SUV, parked on the street by the driveway facing the direction of Chapman, correct?
Do you have something I can look at to refresh my memory?
Sure. Do you not have a clear memory of exactly what you told Trooper Proctor?
Well, I know what
Just yes or no? You need your memory refreshed?
I would like to see what the report says, please.
Permission? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to see the report before I get caught into any of your traps. Lovely Sphinx says, I initially believed the smear and thought, oh boy, this is the only case I disagree with Roberta, and how I became convinced Karen Reed is guilty. How did you become convinced Karen Reed is just by watching the trial? Lovely Sphinx. Curious to know. Oh yeah, my boyfriend is saying me too. He's been watching the trial. He really fell for that doctored picture of the autopsy picture that made it look like a dog bite, even though I have gotten a dog bite and it looked nothing like it. Hold on one second, guys. But they're very convinced. Some of these campaigns can be very convincing. It's always good to listen both sides. I mean, what tipped me off right away was the campaign. The campaign itself, it just looked too much like every single other campaign that I've talked about in that and worse, really booing the victim's family. Just imagine yourself that you've been wrongfully accused and you're going on trial for something you didn't do. And you see your boyfriend's parents, the parents that, the family that treated you like family being booed. Wouldn't you want to speak out right away and say no? But instead, we've seen the text messages from Karen Reed disparaging the O'Keefe family. And that's something you see over and over again with the accused and the convicted, is they have real contempt for their victims, and they really like to re-victimize their victims. And the movement that they lead becomes like the movement becomes like the murderer. It takes on the same characteristics, the same psychopathy, the same psychology, the same actions. They look for vulnerable people. They look for vulnerable people to re-victimize. They look for people. And also the reasons why they like to go after the victim's family is because they tend to have the most knowledge on the case and are very convincing to the public when they speak out. So Karen Reed wanted to terrorize them right away so they wouldn't give interviews, even about John O'Keefe, even humanizing John O'Keefe. And also being very narcissistic. There only can be one victim, and it's Karen Reed. She wants the total limelight. But absolutely injure them so much that they don't have the strength to really advocate for John O'Keefe. I mean, you look at John O'Keefe's mother just weeping through most of this trial. It's heartbreaking. And Paul O'Keefe can't believe what he's looking at. I mean, they're all sitting there going, we all know she's guilty. Why are we here? I mean, they understand the process. But why didn't she just plead guilty, take a shorter sentence? Because should she get convicted of this, I hear it's a mandatory 20 years to life.
Paragraph 3.
Mhm.
This is the face page. You'll review that, especially the highlighted portion. Let me know after you've reviewed it. Just read it to yourself. Did you have that? Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I know. I told.
All I'm asking you, I'm so sorry to do this. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just asking you, does that or does that not refresh your recollection?
Regarding?
What you said to Trooper Proctor on the 29th.
Well, I know what I said to Proctor Trooper on the 29th.
Okay. I have to do it this way. It's court rules.
Mhm.
Does that help you with your recollection of what you told Trooper Proctor?
I didn't tell I told Trooper Proctor the car was outside when I looked at the front door and was straight outside.
Okay. I can't quite get the answer I'm looking for. The court is going to require me to ask this question again.
Mhm.
Does that refresh your recollection, yes or no, as to what you told Trooper Proctor? Yes.
I did not say this to Trooper Proctor, no.
It doesn't help.
No.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. So you did speak to Trooper Proctor on the 29th, correct?
Correct.
And Trooper Proctor asked you some very specific questions about where things were, correct?
Correct.
Focused on Miss Reed's SUV, didn't he? Asked you questions about where Miss Reed's SUV
If you
was.
can show me in the report.
Just read it.
So just off of what I just read, is that what you're going off of? Yes?
I'm asking for your memory. You're testifying.
Yes. So my memory is exactly where the car was.
Hold on. So it's very important that both of you, one person at a time, speaks.
Okay.
Madam Court Reporter has to do what you're both saying, and she can't do it simultaneously. So the best way to do that is, Ms. McCabe, just let counsel ask the question
Okay.
and then you answer. And if it takes a lot more time than we expect it to take, it does.
Okay.
So just
Thanks.
go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll slow it down. Did you talk to Trooper Proctor about where the SUV was?
Yes.
Thank you. And he asked you questions about where it was situated outside, correct?
Yes.
And you told him that you first observed it parked on the street by the driveway facing the direction of Chapman, correct?
I told him that when I looked out the front door, the car was straight ahead. And yes, it was facing up Chapman.
But you left out a little part by the driveway, correct?
That could have been his interpretation or an error on his part.
Yeah, see? She's not falling into, she knows, she saw immediately what the error was in Trooper Proctor's report, and she's not falling for it. Sorry, No Traction Jackson. This is how you got this nickname today. She's not falling for it. She's always one step ahead of him in this cross-examination. And if you had anyone who knew nothing about the case look at this cross-examination and say, who's in control? Everyone would say, Jen McCabe's in control of this cross-examination. And he's lost control. Once you lost control of the witness, good luck trying to get it back. He's trying to wrestle it back. Just ask the question, yes or no. She sees where he's going. I mean, she's beating him at chess. He's the loser here. And it was delicious to watch only because, okay, I wouldn't say only because, for a few reasons. One is because they made Jen McCabe the horrible harassment campaign she had to endure. Two, the way they hyped this up. Wait till Jen McCabe gets cross-examined and watch her fall apart and watch some explosive evidence come out that no jury could convict Karen Reed after. Boy, that didn't happen. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Jen McCabe's cross-examination was extremely helpful to the Commonwealth. Let me know what you think. Latin Rican, Karen says Karen is going to have a hard time getting past the forensic evidence. That's going to be interesting because if my memory serves me right, during the last hearing before the trial, Lally was saying that, and this is more the accident reconstruction, as the accident reconstruction specialists that the state has are not, that the defense has, are not qualified to talk about accident reconstruction. So they may not even testify, and that they have no report, that they're only commenting. They have their own comments, I guess, on the state's report. That was my interpretation. But the forensic evidence is going to be super interesting. And if the dog expert who determined there was no dog DNA on John O'Keefe is any indication, the defense is going to say that this was collected wrong, done wrong, unreliable. I mean, basically like every single defense team does. But I thought it was incredibly ineffective, their cross-examination of the dog expert, the species expert. She can figure out from DNA, what kind of species, all sorts of, DNA comes from. And not just DNA, different things, different evidence. Also, that's combined with those this is a good point, Latin Rican. Also, that's combined with those microscopic pieces with his DNA on them. Interesting. I heard that. So it's the tail light in his shirt, but I've also heard that his hair is on her bumper. But I heard that there was problems getting that back in time from the lab, the hair on the bumper. So I don't know if that's coming in or not. But basically, speaking of the hearing that happened, last hearing that happened before this trial, motions in limine hearing, everything was coming in. And I'm curious to know what's coming in from her interviews. What parts of her interviews is the Commonwealth going to play from, is it Dateline or Nightline? I always get those two confused, but you know what I mean. The patron saint of Canton interview is the one I'm talking about. And the Today Show is coming in. Gretchen Voss's interview article, which I thought was pretty terrible. I mean, she took everything that Karen Reed told her as gospel. No wonder so many people got on board the Free Karen Reed campaign after that article.
I see. So Trooper Proctor is wrong about what you said.
Objection.
No, I'll let him have it. Do you think he's wrong about what you said?
I 100% said it was straight out the front door.
Okay, next question, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And during the course of that conversation, you never once, Ms. McCabe, not once, mentioned a several-ton Jeep with a snowplow attached to it, did you?
I'm not sure if I did or not.
Let's take another look at the report. Would that refresh your recollection to see the report?
Objection.
Do you think that will help you?
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
Direct your attention once again to paragraph 3.
So did you see, I mean, she could have a career in teaching people how to handle tough cross-examinations from now on. She could give master classes in this, and I'm not kidding. So what she said there was, Jackson said to her, he wants to point out something in her report that may be an inaccuracy of what, or an inaccurate representation of what she said, or just a clip of what she said. It doesn't encapsulate all of what she said. And so instead of saying it would refresh my memory, she says, I'll take a look at it. Meaning, I can't tell you if it's going to be totally helpful because I don't know if this is a full representation of everything I said or a correct representation of everything I said. Extremely smart. If you think that Jennifer McCabe is a dummy.
Well, think again.
Yeah. No dummy at all, and played this beautifully.
You've had an opportunity to review.
I have, yeah.
May I approach you on it?
Yes.
That looks like a report from Trooper Proctor of your interview, correct?
Correct.
That interview was taken on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
That interview was taken just a few hours, not days or weeks, hours after the events in question, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked what you saw, what you observed in front of 34 Fairview on that morning, correct? I'm sorry, the night before, correct?
He asked specific questions about Miss Reed's vehicle.
Okay. And when you said where you remember Miss Reed's vehicle being, you placed it in the exact spot where you're now saying there was a Jeep with a snowplow on it, correct?
Incorrect. I never placed Miss Reed's car in the spot where Mr. Higgins' vehicle was.
So as Trooper Proctor was taking notes about what you were saying, he just got it wrong.
You'd have to ask Trooper Proctor.
I will. And you never mentioned, according to that report, not one word about a Jeep, right?
I may never have been asked about a Jeep.
So if you weren't asked about a Jeep, you also weren't asked about a Nissan Altima. Mention that?
No.
Right. Because what he asked you was, what did you observe in front of the house? Ma'am, that's what he asked you, wasn't it?
No.
And you said, I observed her car by the mailbox.
No.
And you never mentioned the Jeep, did you?
You are not portraying what the conversation was.
Did you or did you not mention a Jeep sitting on that, right by that driveway, Trooper Proctor? Yes or no?
It's not in the report. I don't recall if he asked me about a Jeep.
Now, following the events of January 28th, 29th, you spoke extensively to Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
What do you mean by extensively?
Did you speak at all?
Yes, we did.
Between then and now to Chris and Julie Albert.
Do I speak to Chris and Julie Albert
Have you spoken to them about these events between then and now?
about this case? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Ms. McCabe, I'm asking about this case.
Of course, I speak to them all the time about the vicious harassment we are all receiving.
That wasn't my question. My question was, did you talk to them about this case, Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
I realize you want to give additional answers and editorialize. I'm asking you very specific questions.
Objection.
Okay, so objection as to the form. We've talked about this at sidebar, Mr. Jackson.
You've talked to them about the details of that night, correct? The 28th going into the morning of the 29th.
Yes.
You've talked to them about what happened at the bar, correct?
We've spoke about how we were all at the bar and Karen and John came in.
Is that yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You've spoken to them about your memory of what happened at the house at 34 Fairview that night, correct?
Yes.
You've spoken to them about who was at the bar, not just what happened, but who was there, correct?
Correct.
You talked to them about the timing of the night, correct?
I don't think specifically, no.
When people came to the bar, when they left, when people got to Fairview, when they left Fairview, things of that nature.
Well, they were at the bar, so they know who was there and when they left.
And ask if you know what they know. I'm asking if you've ever spoken to them about these issues. Yes or no?
I can't be sure if we've spoken about the timeline.
And you've talked to them about when they got there and when they left.
I have no idea when they arrived at the waterfall.
Once again, Ms. McCabe, that's not what my question was. Do you understand my question? Have you spoken to them about their memory of that?
See, these are kind of like street tactics. Like, you understand my question? What are you, dumb? What are you, dumb? So he's only going to reward her with civility when she answers the way that he wants her to answer. And she's not having it. She's not having it. And there's one, it does remind me a little bit about Keith Raniere's lawyer, Mark Agnefello, who got so persistent with a witness in that case that the judge actually said enough, put a stop to the cross-examination. She was weeping. This is Lauren Salzman, Nancy Salzman's daughter. And they tried to appeal on that, saying that Keith Raniere didn't have a fair trial because of it. But he felt that cross-examination, that the lawyer was asking the same question again and again and again and again, and that she was forthcoming, and that it had spilled over into badgering and harassment. This Alan Jackson, his style is really, like I've said, the reason why people don't like lawyers. It's meant to fool. It's meant to show part of the truth. He's a wordsmith. he will say, did you get, I don't know if you guys just caught that, but he said, did you talk to, I don't know if it was, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting if it was the Alberts or someone else involved in this case, extensively, not just have you spoken to them, but she's like, so Jen McCabe, or Brave McCabe, as I'm labeling her, said, I don't know if you would call it extensively, but I've spoken to them. She's very aware of how Alan Jackson is using his words to really mischaracterize her behavior, her actions, and she is making sure that she is as clear as possible with what she told law enforcement, her actions that morning, and leaving no room for manipulation. So really, I don't know if I've ever seen a cross like this. I've seen contentious crosses like this, meaning obviously the witness is adversarial to the defense attorney, but I don't know if I've seen a cross-examination where the witness is really in control.
That night, and when they came in.
They have not shared with me when they got there or when they left.
In the 2 years or 2.5 years since this event, you've had extensive conversations with your friends and family about this circumstance, correct?
Correct. Yes.
You've told them your observations, your story, correct?
Correct.
Your observations of the night.
Correct.
And they told you their observations of the night, correct?
Correct.
So y'all have compared and contrasted your perspectives of what happened that night, correct?
We've tried to figure out what happened to John, our friend.
And you've talked to them extensively about your observations and what your story or your version is. Is that right?
To be honest, not extensively. Speaking about it is very painful and difficult.
What does extensively mean? More than twice?
Well, you tell me.
Yeah, she's like, you tell me. You're the one who used the word extensively. You're the one who keeps bringing up the word extensively. And you see how she's getting in her points? It's painful. This was a painful. So just, I mean, if you've looked at Karen Reed's behavior through all of the, not just all of the trial, but through her interviews on the courthouse steps, through her interviews with the Today Show, her interviews with Dateline. I hope it's Dateline. I hope I'm right on that. And it's not Nightline and I'm getting it right, but I believe it's Dateline. She has no feeling, even when talking about John and calling him the patron saint, she has, there's no feelings of sadness, remorse, grief coming through that we've seen in these witnesses. That's how I perceive it. Now, a free Karen Reed person will say, well, she doesn't wear her heart on her sleeve. But I mean, you know, I think it's a moment I won't forget when the witness started weeping about John, and it panned to Karen Reed, and there she was looking, I've said it before, I'll say it again, like an extra in a vampire movie, just absolutely devoid of any feeling. Like she's taking part in a staring contest and with the kind of blood drain from her face. She's never talked about how much she misses John, how tragic this was, no matter who did it. She's always said she knew who did it, even as they've gone from subject to subject to subject, from Brian Albert to Colin Albert to Jen McCabe. She always says, remember? Do I have to play it again? We know who did this. When she was asked if she did it, she didn't say no, she didn't. And then Alan Jackson had to come in on the courthouse steps and rescue her from that interview and say, no, she didn't do it, because he knew how badly it looked. I play it often as an opening clip to remind people that when Karen Reed was asked if she did this, the first words that were out of her mouth were not no. There was a pause. There was a thought. You could see her thinking. And she said, we all know who did this. Do we? Meaning I know. How can she be so sure? And how did she come to that conclusion? Because the Free Karen Reed people have no consistent story that fits together. When you ask them, they want to talk about little discrepancies that are easily explained, either the 227 search, which is really the browser opening. That still doesn't absolve Karen Reed. How did she get that cracked taillight? And don't tell me from that Ring camera footage, because you can see there's no of her love tapping John O'Keefe's car, because there's no, first of all, there's footage of it already being broken before that. And there's no pieces of taillight anywhere in the area. And why doesn't she get out to take a look? Pat Brooks says, I totally agree with you, Roberta. I appreciate your analysis and opinions for the truth and justice for John O'Keefe and his family. I thought Jen owned Alan Jackson and showed just how ridiculous and who the real cover-up in this case is, the defendant and her team, in my opinion. Yeah, I saw it the same exact way. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that.
I'm asking the questions, Ms. McCabe. That's how this works.
I understand, but extensively would mean almost every day.
Do you talk to them almost every day?
I do, but not about the case.
Subjects about this case come up every day?
The harassment of the case does, yes.
What about the specific facts of the case? Ms.
No,
McCabe?
it's the facts aren't spoken as much as the vicious harassment is spoken about.
Understood. So you've told them your version of the events, correct? And they've told you their version of the events.
Correct.
And remind me, Chris and Julie Albert are, in fact, Colin's parents.
Correct.
At some point, you became aware that your daughter, Allie, was involved in this matter to some extent, correct?
Yes.
You became aware that there was an extraction of your phone that revealed some data about her whereabouts.
That's not how I became aware now.
Like 360?
Yes, I know what that is.
Okay, that's what I'm asking about.
Mhm.
You became aware that you know your phone was extracted, correct?
I willingly handed over my phone.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
You know that your phone was extracted.
Yes, I handed it over.
And you know that your daughter's whereabouts were revealed based on data on that phone, correct?
That is not how I became aware of my daughter's whereabouts.
You testified at the state grand jury,
Mhm.
questioned by Mr. Lally, correct?
Yes.
You were asked about the Life 360.
Yes.
You answered those questions very fluidly.
Yes,
Yes, I know what Life 360 is. I use it all the time. It's an app, etc.
absolutely.
Okay, let's go over that for a second.
Mhm.
You admitted that it works as a, quote, GPS as far as where people go and everywhere that you go, correct?
Correct.
You indicated that it works as a reliable, quote unquote, tracking device, was your testimony.
Correct.
You indicated that you rely on it, quote, so you know where your kids are at all times. Is that right?
Correct.
And you even said that it's a quote unquote good parenting tool. Is that right?
Correct.
And the reason you said that is because it's accurate in your experience and it's reliable. Is that right?
It's a good tool, but it is not always accurate.
But you said when you testified in front of the great grand jury that it's accurate and it works as a GPS as far as where you go and everywhere you go, correct?
Objection.
Did you say that?
Can I see it?
Sure.
Yeah, this is something that talked about with John Lewin, Deputy DA, King of the Cold Case, John Lewin, in my episode about his amazing, if you guys want to see an amazing cross-examination, check out, it goes on for a couple of days with Elizabeth Loftus. She calls herself a memory expert. She's testified. She also has a book called Witness for the Defense. She's the Innocence Project's favorite expert. She's testified for Harvey Weinstein. She's responsible really for getting Tim Hennis off before he was DNA found him to be guilty after he had been tried. That was tried twice. The first trial was nullified, and then they tried him again. So they had to try him. He's on military death row, but she was parading him around to Innocence Projects. There's even a TV movie with Ricky Schroeder called Innocent Victims, all about Tim Hennis's quote unquote innocence. Funny. It's fun I should take a look at that now that he's on military death row for that very same crime. So what he said is that Elizabeth Loftus would never say that she said something without looking at it because she was counting on me not having it. He had every quote she ever wrote. Here, Jen McCabe is using the same technique, saying, I want to see what I said. And also so that it's not mischaracterized or misunderstood. Let me get to some of these super chats before I go back to Dean Walker. Thanks for the super sticker. Barb Nauman, she's showing everyone how to deal with and talk to a bully or an abuser. Staying so calm and in control is making him reveal who he really is. Controlling abusers who want to provoke you. I think that's what you mean, Barb. Yeah, and she's being very firm. She's not, the attitude is, I'm not taking it. I refuse to have my words twisted, which so often lawyers do, twist your words, misrepresent your words. And they've really used in this trial Facebook, and they've used these reports. So if something is in say one report, you won't see it, but if it's out of another report, if something that a witness testifies and it's not in the report or it's represented different in the report, we're going to hear about it. They know these reports backwards and forwards. And I don't think it's been very effective, not for me. They use them with these first responders, and everybody remembers when Alan Jackson was questioning one of these paramedics, and he said, so you didn't tell anyone at the hospital? No, you didn't think it was important to tell the nurses, or the doctors that Karen Reed said, I hit him. And he said, no, actually, I did tell them. Terrible moment. And when Alan, like I've said before, when Alan Jackson gets caught or has a terrible moment in cross, he's so competitive. He won't sit down like a gambler. He doubles down and he keeps going when he ought to stop. And sometimes he just digs himself deeper into a hole. And here, I think he had a whole half a day and night to Think knowing Jen McCabe's style, knowing how she would be, and he didn't do any better this morning with Jen McCabe than he did yesterday.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Lines 13 through 15.
You said 13 through 15?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. Okay.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mhm.
Does that refresh your recollection?
It does, yes.
Question and answer?
Well, I just don't see the word accurate on there. I don't know if I missed it.
Ms. McCabe, does that refresh your recollection as to the question and answer about whether you said it works as sort of a GPS as far as where you go and everywhere that you go?
Correct.
And your answer was, yeah. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So where did Allie go after she supposedly dropped off Colin Albert?
She went nowhere.
Did you check her Life 360 app to verify that she went, quote, nowhere?
At that point, I had no reason to check her.
So the answer is no, you didn't.
No.
Okay. Did you ever verify through the 360 app that in fact Allie did not go home, but rather was out driving until after 1:30 a.m.? You ever check the app and see that?
Did I ever check Life 360 app for that?
Yep.
No.
Okay. But you believed her when she said she came home.
Yes.
And just like you believed her when she said she picked up Colin, dropped him off, and then came home.
Yes.
Okay. The Alberts had a dog, pardon me, correct?
Yes.
What was the dog's name?
Chloe.
You indicated that on the morning of January 29th,
Mhm.
after 6 a.m., it was still relatively dark out, you burst into the bedroom of Brian and where was Chloe?
I don't know.
So you'll agree that, at least from their perspective, you walked in the front door unexpectedly, correct?
Yes.
You walked upstairs unexpectedly, correct?
Yes.
Still dark outside, right?
Yes.
You walked through their door and you said you burst into the door into a dark room where they were sleeping, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Albert said that you were somewhat hysterical. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You were loud, right?
I was trying to wake them up.
You were somewhat chaotic.
Yes.
And you don't remember a 70-pound German Shepherd having any reaction.
No.
Matter of fact, you don't remember the dog being there at all, correct?
Correct.
You never saw that dog, correct?
I have no memory of seeing that dog.
Okay, so as you sit here today,
Mhm.
you cannot say that the dog was here because you don't have a memory of ever seeing it,
I
correct?
did not see it. No.
Was there time attacking, and it was her murder time. She didn't see her during that time. That was the time the time Chloe, it was her preferable time for attacking people just randomly. Yeah. Of course. Alan, you don't know that? You don't know that everybody knows that Chloe's favorite time is 5, 6 in the morning? You're not gonna see her in the house at that time, Alan.
And remind me once again, when you were leaving that night, that early morning before,
Mhm.
Who was the last person to leave? Was it Caitlin?
I believe she left after us.
We've talked about this, and I want to get into a little bit more detail about it. You indicated that at some point you looked outside and you saw Karen Reed's SUV in front of the house. Safe to say, correct?
Correct.
About what time was that you first saw it?
I can just give you maybe approximates. I know I texted when I saw them, so whatever time that was.
All right, let's see if we can narrow that down just a little bit. You also indicated that you saw Ryan Nagel's vehicle outside.
Saw lights.
Okay. Lights belonging to the vehicle, right?
Yes, I knew there was another vehicle outside.
And where was that in relation to Miss Reed's vehicle?
It was behind it. I didn't pay much attention to it.
Okay, and where was the Jeep in relation to Ryan Nagel's vehicle and Karen Reed's SUV?
I remember seeing Karen Reed's SUV straight, and then I saw the lights of Ryan Nagel. I did not pay attention to where it was. I was just looking at Miss Reed's vehicle.
Was Ryan Nagel's vehicle and those lights that you remember, were they in front of the Jeep or behind the Jeep?
I am not certain.
Haven't you testified previously that you remember the Jeep being between Ryan Nagel's vehicle and the SUV?
I am not certain where Ryan Nagel's vehicle was.
So as you sit here now, you don't know if it was in front of the Jeep as you placed it by the mailbox.
It would be
behind the Jeep or somewhere in between.
It definitely was not in front of the Jeep.
Definitely was not in front of the Jeep.
No.
So it was definitely behind the Jeep.
Behind or to the side, I'm not sure.
Well, if it's parked on the street in front of the house, it's not going to be beside the Jeep, right? That's going to be in the middle of the road.
It would have been in the middle of the road, correct. So if it's pulled over, it's behind the Jeep.
Okay, so now we've narrowed that down. It's Karen Reed's SUV. As we're looking at the property, Karen Reed's SUV. To the right of that, as we're looking at from the street, at the property, to the right of that Jeep, behind that Ryan Nagel's vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You sure about that?
If my memory serves right, yes.
If your memory serves. Okay. So.
Right. She's not getting trapped into anything. If my memory serves right, yes. I'm going to take a quick break. When I get back, we're going to go over more of Brave McCabe, Brave Jennifer McCabe owning No Traction, Alan Jackson. When we get back, don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. All right. See, I told you that wouldn't be long. Back to Jennifer McCabe's amazing cross. I just remember watching this and just with my jaw just dropped. This was not the Jennifer McCabe I was expecting. I was expecting a lot of, little points made that didn't mean anything. I don't think Alan Jackson scored 1 point. If anything, points were scored by Jennifer McCabe for the Commonwealth in this. So it's one of the more wild cross-examinations you're ever going to see. We're about an hour into. We're not going to watch all of it, but just to check it out. I'm sure Alan Jackson was depressed. I think what is that one lawyer on Court TV said he sleeps in silk pajamas. He was definitely depressed in his silk pajamas after a day of this cross-examination. This is called scoring no points in cross-examination. This is called the cross-examination didn't go as planned.
You were asked about the arrival of Mr. Nagel's car at the state grand jury. Do you recall that?
I believe so.
That was in April 26th, 2022.
Mhm.
Just
Okay.
remember. Okay. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
I don't expect you to
Yes.
surprise that date.
Yes.
You were asked what time did you see Ryan Nagel's vehicle arrive at the location, and you indicated that it was 12:23. You remember that?
Do you have it?
I do. Yeah.
Yes.
Take a look at lines 21 and on the highlighted portion. Let me know when you.
Okay.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
You were asked, do we know what time the brother came? Meaning Ryan Nagel,
Okay.
correct?
Correct.
And the question from Mr. Lally that was from a grand juror. The question from Mr. Lally was, if you know, correct?
Correct.
And your answer was, I believe he was out front at 12:23. Is that right?
Correct.
And the reason you could be so precise with that time, Ms. McCabe, is because you had asked Julie Nagel to give you her text messages with Ryan for that night, and you had refreshed your recollection about the time, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you've also testified that as soon as you saw Miss Reed's SUV, you texted John. Is that right?
Correct.
Here, exclamation point, question mark. That was the first text, right?
Correct.
But your text to John was at 12:27. You recall that?
Yes.
That's 4 minutes after you know Ryan Nagel arrived at the scene, correct?
Correct.
Since Karen Reed arrived before Ryan Nagel, she and John had to have been there 4 to 5 minutes before you ever saw her SUV, correct?
Objection.
I'll let him have it.
Is that right?
Ryan Nagel texted his sister at 12:23 here. And then he texted again that he was going to leave. Then Julie Nagel went outside
Mr.
and
McCabe, that's not my question.
I'm explaining what happened in the 4 minutes.
You can explain at another question. My question is very specific. Given the fact that Karen Reed, by definition, arrived at the location before Ryan Nagel, and Ryan Nagel arrived at 12:23, that means, and you didn't notice the SUV until 12:27, that means her car was there for at least 4 minutes before you ever noticed it, correct?
Objection.
Is that correct? Can you answer that question?
Correct.
snow
And what were you doing in those 4 minutes? Maybe planning a murder with your with your Canton buddies? Is that what was happening before you ever noticed? She was there for 4 whole minutes before you noticed. What were you doing in those 4 minutes? Can you imagine not noticing something for 4 whole minutes?
snow condition. We've heard a lot about the snow condition. I'm not going to beat that dead horse. But it's safe to say that you would agree with me that it was a light dusting of snow, correct? I should be specific about the time. It was a light dusting of snow at or around 12 to 12:30, 12:45, something like that.
It was starting to accumulate.
Okay. And accumulate means stick to the ground, not just fall and melt, right?
Yes.
So it was starting to turn like a very thin blanket of white.
Yes.
You indicate that, or you indicated on Friday that you saw some sort of tire tracks. Is that right?
On Friday? I don't believe.
I thought in your testimony to Mr. Lally on Friday, you indicated that you saw some tire tracks. I could be wrong.
Yes, I don't remember that.
Okay, well, let me ask you, did you see any tire tracks?
At one point, yes.
Okay, when was that point?
I'm not sure.
Was it before Ms. Reed's vehicle got there? Was it after? Let's use that as the barometer first.
I believe it was after Miss Reed's vehicle was there because that's why I was drawn to look outside.
And what did those tire tracks look like? How would you describe it?
Almost like as a wave went like this. So
Like a half J?
to my recollection, it was almost like started if Miss Reed's vehicle's here, let's pretend it was kind of like that.
Just
Like a bit of a wave. So if you started on coming towards her, it'd be more of a wave,
okay.
like this in the road.
What it sounds like is perhaps, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but perhaps what you're describing is tracks in the middle of the road. If someone is pulling off parallel, they would pull to the right and then stop. And those are the tracks that you saw. That's the wave that you saw.
It wasn't up to her car. It doesn't look like your description.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just trying here. So if it didn't go up to her car,
Mhm.
those tracks belong to somebody else.
So now he's trying to nullify. Perhaps she did see some kind of backward tracks, a 3-point turn tracks in the snow. I don't know what he's going to prove with this. It's hard to orient in time when this happens. Are these the backwards tracks that hit John? But so he's looking to put the words in her mouth that they were tracks from her parking, pulling up on the road after after getting the directions and following them home. And now there could be other people's tracks. I mean, if the snow is accumulating, that's unlikely. I mean, it just sounds like a desperate defense lawyer, doesn't he? We're going to watch a little bit of this, and then we're going to switch to her testimony today, which is it's a little bit of it today, and you can see he did no better.
Well, when I saw her car, it had already moved up.
Well, wait a minute. You already said that when you saw her car, it was directly in front of you.
And then it moved at one point.
Right? That's not what I'm asking about. Let's just take the point at which you first saw the car.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay. When you first saw the car,
Mhm.
that's when you saw the tire tracks. You just said that.
No, I did not say when I first saw the car, I saw the tire tracks.
I thought you just said a couple of questions ago that you saw the tire tracks because your attention was drawn to her car. That would be the first time you saw her car, correct?
I'm saying I saw the tire tracks because I was looking out at her car. I never said when I saw the tire tracks or where her car was when I saw the tire tracks.
Well, I thought you just said, because I asked, when did you see the tire tracks? You said, I saw the tire tracks when I looked and saw her car because my attention was drawn to her car. I saw the tire tracks. That would be the first time you looked at her car, correct?
It's not, doesn't have to be the first time I looked at her car. I looked out multiple times.
Did you see the tire tracks the second time?
Well, I'm not exactly sure.
Did you see them the third time?
Again, I'm not sure.
Okay, so it could have been the first time.
Could have been.
But they didn't lead to the back tires of her car, did they?
No.
Let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, I think this is a good place to stop it. You guys get the idea. It didn't get any better. It only got more damaging that day. And, you know, we don't have court tomorrow. We can, you know. So if I've forgotten some great moments or we didn't go through some great moments in it, I can pull them out. But you know, what he was hoping for is to get her so angry at him that she looks bad. But what she looks like is someone who's angry at being vilified, angry at having words put, angry at having words put in her mouth. And all those things just go to her veracity as a witness. I am sure at what I saw. I cannot be manipulated. I cannot be swayed. I know what I saw. I have a general idea of when I saw it. And if I don't, you know, I won't say it, you know. And it was absolutely pretty much the worst thing that can happen. He thought maybe I could just badger her until she gets so angry she starts yelling at me and then she looks like a jerk. But she always kept it where it was emphatic, it was strong, and not to be messed with. You know, that was the attitude. And I think that, you know, like I've said before, he's the reason why people don't like lawyers. They're good with words. They're good with manipulating testimony. They're good at making things look like something happened that didn't happen, or look good at making people look like they said something that they didn't say. Go back to my interview with David McKenzie, where in the Julius Jones case, where she got the witness got a very good look at Julius Jones and the hair coming out from his skull cap. And he manipulated that. But Jen, you know, one thing about Jen,
I know how to win the hard way.
She does. She knows how to win the hard way. So let's watch.
I was screaming. My hands were shaking, and she.
This is some edited testimony from, I believe it's from today. And she's saying, you know, I'm not going to be manipulated. Not going to be manipulated. And they're still going toe to toe.
Was saying, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
And what phrase did you put in your phone? I'm just asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
You literally don't remember?
Again, she was screaming, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
How about?
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
And you literally, to this day, right now, under oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at her...
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
That morning, I don't remember specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this? Hoss long to die in cold. That sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been everywhere.
Why does that sound so familiar?
Because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything out in social media because I don't personally have social media.
I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did.
So if the world happens to know it, that's not on me, is it?
I guess not.
I guess not. Hoss long to die in cold is what you.
I wish she had said you're the one directing Turtle Boy. And that's where I've been disappointed in this trial, is that none of this harassment testimony has gotten back directly to the defense. And we all know from the text messages that have come out that the defense has had so many conversations with Turtle Boy, have been leaking things to Turtle Boy, using Turtle Boy, to say that it's Turtle Boy, not the defense. Turtle Boy and the defense are one and the same. And so that was some of my criticism, if you call it yesterday's episode with Kevin J. Mahoney and his, what I'd call faux puzzlement at the defense in this case. I don't know why first he calls it incorporating social media, but they've gotten a blogger to really, what the defense has done is spearheaded a campaign of terror. And it goes against the lawyer code of ethics, but none of these lawyers are ever held to task for any of their behavior. And as Kevin Mahoney pointed out, it's not like the state can appeal. That would be double jeopardy. So if they win using shenanigans and manipulations, the state has nowhere to go with their grievance. And good luck going and reporting these lawyers, because you're reporting them to the bar of a bar filled with other lawyers. I mean, when I've seen lawyers really get their law license revoked, and this is why I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know if anybody's familiar with, he's another expert that parades around true crime, Jim Clemente. He had his law license revoked, and I'm still trying to figure out why he appealed it and they wouldn't give it back to him. But it's really hard to get your law license revoked. Generally, you get a slap on the wrist. One thing they don't tolerate is fooling around with payments, that kind of financial fraud. But innocence fraud, it seems like you can just go all day with that. I've never seen a lawyer get in any trouble with any of the kind of what I call innocence fraud that I talk about on this channel.
Put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
Is there a reason that you don't want to admit to that?
Absolutely not.
It's a simple question, right?
No reason.
So say it. What Google search did you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were seeking at some point to Google how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
And you made a mistake and mistakenly typed Hoss long to die in cold, correct?
You could show me it. I'd appreciate it.
You later Google searched. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
While she looks at that, Mr. Jackson, can we bring our clerk back upstairs?
Of course, yes. I think we're back to
Thank you very much. Can you text Jimmy and tell him?
Take a look at that report and tell me if that refreshes your recollection.
I mean, my memory is there's something like 40 to 60 calls during a period between the either Yannetti or Jackson and Turtle Boy. So it's not just a rumor or some kind some kind of myth.
Yes, it does.
Does that appear to be an accurate page from a Celebrite extraction from your phone?
It does.
Okay. May I have that back? I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
May I have that back for a second? Did you see this, the actual search phrase? Does
Yes.
that now refresh your recollection?
Yes.
But I'd like to have this marked as next in order. Exhibit, please.
Is there an objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Jim?
May I?
Yes. Is that, Madam Court Reporter? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to publish this, Your Honor.
Okay.
Does this appear to be the document that was just marked as Exhibit 99?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit small, Mr. Basin. You see this column,
Yes.
third column from the, actually it's the fourth column from the left. One, some dates, some data, and then a Google search, correct?
Correct.
What does that Google search say?
House long to die in cold.
Now, you indicate that you did that, you made that search at 6:23 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And then you indicated that you did it again thereafter at 6:24, correct?
Correct.
At 6:24, you misspelled the phrase and you spelled it as follows: how long T-I die in C-I-K-D, correct?
Correct.
Now you claim that those two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. respectively, correct?
Objection.
Phrase it differently.
Sure. You've indicated under direct examination that these two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., right?
I don't know if I gave exact times, but I said it was in the morning and Karen had asked me to do it.
And you, exactly, you claimed that you searched it because Karen was screaming at you and yelling at you, Google hypothermia, and you Googled how long does it take for a person to die? I'm sorry, she said something like, how long does it take for a person to die of hypothermia? And you Google searched it at 6:23 and 6:24. Is that right?
Again, I'm not sure about the exact times. I just did it after Karen asked me to do it.
Would you quarrel with the idea that those were about 30 seconds apart?
Okay.
And you're aware, Ms. McCabe, that both spellings, both misspellings of that phrase result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Well, you Googled them, ma'am. You're looking on your phone and you Googled it. How long to die in cold and how long to die in CIKD. Both of those. You Googled them, right?
I did, yes.
And they result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I have no idea.
So my question to you is, why the two searches?
She was standing next to me screaming, shaking my hand. My hand was cold. I was trying to Google it. Obviously, maybe whatever came up first didn't make sense because I had some misspellings, so I did it again.
So Hoslong to die in cold results in articles concerning dying of exposure, doesn't it?
We never got the chance to read it.
Well, you're the one, when you say we, who's we?
Karen and myself.
Well, you're the one holding the phone, Ms. McCabe.
Correct.
So you're looking down at your phone and you see exactly what comes up, correct?
I don't remember exactly what came up.
Well, what came up was something about dying of hypothermia, didn't it?
That's what she asked.
So why do it again? Why do it again, Ms. McCabe? You had the result. Why the second search?
I cannot answer that beyond telling you that my hands were frozen. She was shaking me and screaming at me.
And you see the time, can you scroll up, please? According to the Celebrate data, see this first search that says Haas long to die in cold?
I do.
What's that time?
You've got the, it's right over at 2:27
AM or PM?
a.m.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time.
You
No.
realized the next morning, after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search on your phone, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
To cover your tracks, you searched it again in order to overwrite the original search at 2:27, correct?
Again, absolutely not.
But you were nervous and you screwed it up. So the first search you made at 6:23 was Haas long to die in CIKD, wasn't it?
No.
When you see the search right there, correct?
I see the search, but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
6:23.
And you agree that that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
And that comports with your memory of that morning, about 6:23 in the morning and 51 seconds.
Correct.
And there's a second search, correct?
Correct.
And this one at 6:24 says Haas long to die in cold. 6:24:16, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry, 18. I was up that great. And that comports with your memory as well.
I remember Googling it at the request.
Yeah, at the request of Karen Reed. And she'll say in this that the Cellbrite people will explain it all. But he's trying to get her to try to get her to admit that somehow she did another search and got rid of it to get, I don't, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's all ridiculous. We all know that Jen McCabe is not a criminal mastermind of this. And, you know, cut to Karen. Every time I wonder if the jury is looking at Karen Reed, you know, like here, Jen McCabe is on the stand for her life, not giving an inch, doing beautifully. And I wonder if Karen Reed is going to take the stand in this. But, you know, every time that a witness does well and gets off the witness stand, the camera always pans to Karen Reed. And there she is. And I get it that you're on trial and they tell you, you know, that you're not, you know, you may not be animated, you may be stressed, you may not be animated, but this was her boyfriend of 2 years. Not even a furrowed brow have we seen. We've seen not even a hint of sadness.
The defendant, yes.
About 27 seconds apart, correct?
Yes.
But the reality is your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search, did it? It was a different spelling, wasn't it?
I never searched a 2:27. That is not reality.
But the 6:24 search did exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
I'm sure Celebrite will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
And then of those three searches, one of them.
Boom. Boom, mic drop. I'm sure Cellbrite will explain it to you, and I'm sure that testimony is going to be equally as damaging. So we'll all look forward to that. I think this is a good place to end it for today. You know, it doesn't get much better for Alan Jackson, but before I do, I just want to remind everybody about the relationship between the defense team and Turtle Boy. So this video was taken by Grant Smith Ellis. Here's Alan Jackson. We're behind him is David Yannetti, Karen Reed in the black suit. To the left, you can't see him yet, is Turtle Boy videoing with his phone, one of his many phones. There, do you see him? Now watch David Yannetti's hand. Did you guys see that? One more time. So it gives him a nice. Oh, did I not share my screen? Sorry. I didn't fully share my screen. All right. Sorry, guys. I always do that. My apologies. Okay, so here we go again. I'll set it up for you again. Here is David Yannetti, Alan Jackson, Karen Reed. Did you see that? It goes by so quickly. There's the butt tap that was heard all over the world. One more time. The good job, Turtle Boy. Good job on your harassment campaign. Good job. Good job intimidating witnesses. Good job re-victimizing the family. Good job. Good job. Good job. Absolutely stomach turning. So they have a long time to think about their defense, certainly. We don't have a trial for a long time. But, you can't make up. I mean, they've tried to make up evidence. They made up a story, but they don't have much evidence. I mean, this is the Facebook, like I've said, the Facebook defense. And it really hasn't worked except with grifting YouTube channels that have gone on this side because, they're pulling in a ton of money promoting this conspiracy. And Free Karen Reed movement has pulled in, I hear, I've heard all sorts of figures bantied about. So innocence fraud does pay. That's what I have for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. Thanks, Jackie Joe. And I will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern.